Hi everyone and good evening. It is day 43. I hope you all had a good day 42. I had some fun. If you haven't seen the episode, it's a great departure. It's a lot of fun. But before I go on, we'll start out t-shirt style, as I'm trying to regularly. As I'll get to just in a moment, I started working on Brighter from season 2 of Has Been Hotel today. More on that really soon. So as a result, today I'm wearing my Has Been Hotel season 2 spoiler shirt. So overall, today was actually really interesting because both sessions, even though they were completely different pieces and different levels of where I was with them, they ended up circling around almost exactly the same idea. Honestly, I don't think I fully realized that until I sat down to start organizing my thoughts for the night. This morning, my day I call purple, and that is experimentation, leveling out, but not really pushing for improvement. Brighter session inside the new setup. My tracks are set up, my recording is set up. It for the first time, the environment stopped feeling like infrastructure. Stopped feeling like construction. It started feeling more like actual relationship building with the manifest, or with the material itself. Amusingly, having already tested everything, I opened it up today and the microphone didn't work. But I discovered what that was really quickly and moved on. So up until now, a lot of this has honestly been technical. Building tracks, aligning references, making sure the recording system is set up correctly, workflow, just how to even approach this kind of layered vocal learning. But this morning, finally started feeling like less assembling some machinery and more like stepping into the music itself. Now, to be clear, this was not some magical, suddenly I sound like Vox session. No, quite the opposite, actually. I could hear very clearly that I am still singing very casually, not using a whole lot of technique, heavily imitating the original performance from the series. Obviously, the end goal is to naturally inhabit it. Much like Be Prepared, where I came to the realization that it's my scar now. The same is going to happen inevitably with this. And the interesting thing is, with established pieces of music, it's that fear when you do a cover or a redo. Have you taken it far enough in a different direction that people won't just say it's not the original? Okay, so went through my first time. Technique was, I said I didn't use technique, but technique kind of used me throughout. Everything sounded uneven. It was kind of just plastered together with duct tape. But underneath all of that, something important was happening. The structure of the piece is starting to settle into my brain. Certain transitions already feel less foreign than they did a week ago. The unusual chorus entrance is beginning to feel expected instead of mechanically awkward. Some of the chorus bits hit at strange points. And the really interesting realization was that by the end of the session, I was starting to suspect that trying to construct a Vox voice from the outside is the wrong approach. I mean, I talked about this a lot yesterday. 42 is definitely worth the watch. But at core, I am a theater person. Emotional intent changes physical behavior. It changes your pacing, your breath, vocal placement, whether you consciously micromanage those things or not. By the end of the morning, I started wondering whether emotional connection to the material might naturally sort of reshape my coordination a little more effectively than trying to just sort of make myself sound like CB. And it's early days for that one. I'm finding it is a halfway point between finding my own way and relying on something else, and it is rely rather than consult. Then this afternoon happened. This afternoon was be prepared, and apparently the answer to what happens when you become emotionally immersed in a performance is you physically wander away from the microphone without realizing it. Which honestly is really not ideal from a recording standpoint. I jumped into the first take, which was 168, and immediately very deeply into the theatricality of the piece. And when I say deep, I broke a good solid sweat during the song because I was so physically and emotionally engaged with what the whole song was doing. Internally, the performance felt like it was connecting and really quite alive. And then I listened to the playback. The opening sounded way quieter than it's felt in quite a while. And I know I was singing it at least a higher energy level. As I got later in the piece, it immediately, by one line, suddenly jumped much louder. Because apparently somewhere, subconsciously, my brain went, wait, where's the microphone? So today I learned something very important. I can no longer trust myself to sing with my eyes closed. Because once I become fully immersed on the performance, I physically drift without realizing what I'm doing. And that, of course, led into the next take, where I was going to make sure I was positioned over the microphone and be there. That became a bizarre balancing act, however, between trying to have that theatrical immersion and the technical awareness of where's the microphone. I'd say I kept my eyes open about 98% of the take, with the remaining 2% immediately followed by me going, no, open those eyes. I could literally feel myself trying to disappear back into the performance mode again. And the funny part is that splitting my attention between performance and microphone positioning actually caused a lot of mistakes early in the take, because now part of my brain was monitoring physical placement instead of just inhabiting the piece. Once I settled in, it started to get pretty cohesive. But as I came in, it was a very new feeling on a piece I've been doing for now about 2 months. And I had to acclimate. Okay. Technically, the bass notes were still inconsistent, especially toward the end of the piece, where the sustained low sections kind of... So at the very end, I've got this be prepared, and that sustain kind of sickly limped along instead of carrying the support and color that I really need to put into them. Honestly, by the end of today, all of this stuff felt secondary. It wasn't earth-shattering. It wasn't giving me a feeling of failure. The real focus now no longer feels like, can I hit these notes at all? The focus is increasingly becoming, does his performance feel truthful? And that's interesting when you're playing a character that is being manipulative and lying. But performers love to play villains because you have to get yourself into the mindset of, this is my truth. Weirdly enough, I think yesterday's episode connects directly into this. Yesterday, I talked a lot about storytelling and theater, emotional communications, and art functioning as this strange subconscious conversation between performer and audience. And today, honestly felt like I ran directly into the practical side of that idea, because one emotional connection becomes real enough. It starts affecting physical behavior automatically, apparently including the microphone discipline, but who's to say? So, tonight's takeaway honestly isn't really, I need to fix something. It feels more like I need to spend more time reconnecting to how I actually want these performances to feel emotionally, while simultaneously learning how to stay technically grounded enough that the technical around me doesn't completely collapse while I'm disappearing into scar. And honestly, this feels like an incredible theater kid problem to have. So in one way, I was on entirely different ends of the spectrum, but despite being on different ends of the spectrum, my focus, my theater background, my sense of how I believe in getting to touch art was going in at the same rate on both ends. So this is going to be one of those periods of time for a little while where I probably will not be posting any of recordings of myself, because with Be Prepared, I'm trying to line up the performance because there are parts of it that just don't feel right. With Boulevard, I am really trying to rebuild technique, and Brighter is new. I'm just touching it. The first couple of ones, I was like, yeah, I got a lot to figure out. So, anyway, thank you, as always, for following along. This is, at times, a very strange journey, but I'm glad to have people watching episodes. I'm thrilled that people are communicating back through YouTube. I like having the ability to go further than what I've presented, in case people are wondering more details or something technical. And it's wonderful to have like that outlet. So I've thanked you once. I'll thank you many more times, especially tonight and further nights. And speaking of further nights, tomorrow is 44. So until 44, later.